Okay, this deal came from our bad credit list. What I really love about the bad credit list is the fact that it's really what you would call a guerrilla marketing list. And here's why I say that. Just because they have bad credit doesn't necessarily mean motivation. So when we do the bad credit list, we pull the whole list. And when I say guerrilla marketing, we are looking for certain criteria on that list that says, okay, let's see what happens. And the criteria for the bad credit list is people that own real estate. I think we did a time frame of owning it for at least 20 years. No, I'm sorry, we did a time frame of 10 years. And we also didn't worry about value or anything like that. It was just a matter of Baltimore City and Baltimore County. And the reason why you want to do a large range is because you want to reach that 50,000. And we also did a criteria of, I think it was 400 to 500 credit score, 500 to 600 credit score. Mm-hmm. That was our credit score that we did. And we came up with that 40, 50,000, and we downloaded it. Good part about the bad credit list is it comes with phone numbers, so you don't have to skip trace it. So we did cold calling, we did REI reply, text, RVM, the whole 9 yards, and this came, what did we say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How long did it take? What campaign on the bad credit list did it do? Was it 1 month, 2 months? What was it? You remember?
How long ago was it?
Yeah.
This was back in like February when we first got
Okay, so we probably had the bad credit list out for about a month, mm-hmm. and this deal came up. And the good part about this deal was that our cold caller, which one was it? Maria reached out to them, and the issue was the fact that they wanted to move to another property. The young lady had a divorce, and she had health issues. The house was too big, so it's only her. At the time, it originally was her husband, and family members living in the property. But by the time we got to her, it was just her, and she has a boyfriend now, correct?
She has a boyfriend, but he doesn't live here.
Yeah, she has a boyfriend as well. She had health issues.
But he didn't live here?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, he had health issues, so she had health issues. So when we reached her, she just wanted to get rid of the property. We actually made 2 offers, like I said. This was one of the ones that I actually came to the property to help make the offer. The offer was a all cash offer where it was 346? It was all cash offer. 346, 345. And it was a subject to offer, what was 335. And initially, she took the all cash offer. So as we got closer to closing, we said, you know what? I don't think she really gets how empowered the value of her doing the all subject to offer would be for her. So we re-engage her about the subject to. So when somebody says no, it doesn't mean no. Always think in terms of bringing it back up again. And we re-engage her for the subject to when it came time for the paperwork to be signed. Now, when I say when it became time, because she had to find a place to move in. So when she found that place to move in, then it was time to do the paperwork. But once again, Rick kept engaging her. Rick kept building that rapport. I don't know if her boyfriend knows about Rick, but Rick was there. I'm just joking with you, Rick. Rick was there all the time dealing with this young lady, and he really got a great relationship with her. And that was really what took us over the finish line. When it was time for her to move, she moved out, and at that point in time, we did the paperwork prior to her moving out with a strike date of what needs to be done. So the strike date was that she would move out prior to us finishing up the subject to. So when I say that is, the last thing you want to happen is have somebody in a property after you close. Don't ever do that. Well, let me put it like this. I would never do that unless that profit was just really astronomical, where I may want to take that chance. But for those of you who don't know, that situation is the reason why we have the protection and homeowner foreclosure law. An investor told a widower that she could stay in the property after he buys it, and she could rent it out. The actual widower was the wife of a state trooper, and because that investor went back on his word, and what I mean by went back on his word, as soon as he bought her property, he kicked her out. So because of that issue, she went to the state's attorney. They drafted the Protection of Homeowner and Foreclosure Act, which I talked about yesterday, where you're no longer able to buy property that's in foreclosure that's over 60 days late on their mortgage, unless the property is vacant or unless the property is an investment property. Because of that, that's why that law was created. And that's why for me, I don't put people into the property after I buy it. I make stipulation that the person has to be moved. Now, what I told you was, there's a caveat. If the person is staying in after, the way to do this is, for example, if the person is getting money at closing, and that money could be like $30,000, they get $10,000 up front, the other $20,000 when they move out. So that's how you would structure it. Make it based on them contingent upon doing something to get the rest of their money. Do not give all their money at closing and then they have no incentive to move out. So keep that in mind. That's how I would structure it if I decided to do something like that, where we're giving somebody money. Now, the other way you would do it as well, if you're doing it like that and you want to do something like that where the person is staying in for 2 or 3 months, you deduct the amount that you would charge them for rent out of the proceeds they're supposed to get. That's another process that you would put in place if you're going to do something like that. Now, back to this deal. Once we got it under contract, I came here, and what I gave it? The actual deposit that was put down, I think it was $20.
$20.
And as you see, this is when everything is all done, $485,000 house. A house just sold. How far away was it?
It's in the same development.
In the same development for $500,000. However, that house had a pool in the backyard. Now, I'm a firm believer, and you can talk to an actual appraisers. A pool really don't add much value. It really don't. So I still don't think we're going to get 500. I think we're at 480, 485. The numbers on this deal is a total of 338. What is it? 338,000, which is the mortgage balance. She wanted $12,000. We're giving her 12,500, right? Or was it 12,000? 12,500.
12,000.
We're giving her 12,000, and we're taking over the payments. The payment starts off in August. So we take over the payments in August. The payments is $2,100 a month. We predict to be in this in about 30 days, in and out. We're buying it subject to. Now, the key part to this, our estimate of repairs is around $35,000 to $40,000. That's what we're looking at repairs. We're going to update the kitchen. We're going to redo this deck here. We're going to also put an island in there. We're going to my man Franklin to get granite countertops. So you will be our guy for the granite countertops. Like I said, I want you guys to look inside first before you go outside. So if you guys got services that you think we can use, I encourage each and every one of you guys to look at your members first, as long as they give you a good price. So now, you know I'm kidding. No, I'm not. Now, the key to this is the fact, like I said, the bones on this property is great. I mean, you guys did a walkthrough. The biggest issue we have is that wall right there.
Yeah.
We're going to open it up, open that back up again, and we have a bathroom that has a issue in the plumbing that our guy already looked at. He said, "Charles, that's a small thing." So we're going to fix that bathroom. But what we're doing inside is a paint job, carpet. We're going to do the actual kitchen, redo the whole kitchen. I my thought was planning to open it up a little bit on the right side, but as I see that kitchen cabinet there, because I was planning on moving the refrigerator next to that wall by the stairwell, but it's not enough space unless I back the whole kitchen out, and it's not worth doing that.
Right.
And the reason why it's not doing that is because the properties that sold for $485, all they did was update the kitchen and really paint job, same bathroom, same towel and stuff that was there. We're going to, of course, take care of the finishings. We're going to take care of the sinks, put in new sinks and so on. But the fixtures, we're going to replace the fixtures, that kind of stuff. But we really plan on being in and out of the repairs in about 3 weeks, truth be told. 4 tops. One of the things we've talked about was taking down the actual PlayStation here. We're going to take that down. A number of reasons. One, I don't know how sturdy it is. I don't want to be a situation where I tell them that, hey, you can hit this, and next thing you know, something falls apart and somebody gets hurt and yada, yada, yada. So the likelihood is slim, but we are going to take that down. Of course, we're going to do landscaping in the front and the back. When this is done, I will have you guys come in and see a final walkthrough of the property. In regards to the actual subject to, there's different levels of a subject to. The key point to it is the fact that it allows you to control with confidence, with also a risk. And what I mean by that, when you're doing a subject to, you're getting access to the property by way of a trust and being the beneficiary interest holder of that trust. So in other words, the actual homeowner is creating a trust at the closing table and then signing beneficiary interest of the trust over to us. Now, truth be told, once that happens, that deal now falls in jeopardy of Garn-Saint-Germain Act, which states that a homeowner can put a property in a trust as long as the homeowner remains or retains beneficiary interest. Once the beneficiary interest is transferred over to us, it could get the property called due on sale. It could happen. So don't let anybody tell you that a trust isn't in violation of, or should I say subject to, isn't in violation of due on sale, because it is. We're willing to take the risks because we have proper documents in place to make the payments and so on. Our attorney's drawing up everything, and we're going to be in and out in 3 months. That's our goal, to be in and out in 3 months. So the way we did it this way, I would highly recommend doing it depending on the actual deal. And when we structure deals with you guys, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. So I may say, let's do it this way, or let's do a joint venture situation like we did with Frank deal, or we may do something else. But it's going to all be based on the actual deal. If this was a long-term deal, meaning if this was going to be a deal where we take it over and just keep the property in the seller's name for 10 years, 15 years, this would have been structured as a wraparound mortgage or as a all-inclusive trust deed type situation. But in this situation, we're doing in and out. So I don't recommend the typical subject to be long-term. I don't recommend it. There's other ways. I just gave you 2 other ways in which you could do long-term and not have to worry about due on sale or none of that stuff. I had a partner who did a subject to, and it got called because for some stupid reason he forgot he didn't make mortgage payments. He didn't forget. He forgot he didn't make mortgage payments, and this was just one of his deals that he had. We weren't doing this deal together. This is one of his deals he had, and he didn't make the mortgage payment. And the bank and the owner called and said, "Hey, this is the situation. We don't own the property anymore. We signed it over subject to." The bank said, "Subject to? Subject to what? Right. You can't do that." Bam! They called the loan due. Now, the person who this happened to, he paid the house off. Right. He actually went ahead and bought the house because it was such a great deal. But he didn't have to go through that had he not made that hiccup. And the issue why he made that hiccup he had about 60 something properties, and he wasn't maintaining his books properly. So this property fell underneath the radar, and all it took was I think 1 month or two, but this is like 8 years ago, guys. All it took was like 1 or 2 months, and those 1 or 2 months made that homeowner get contacted by the bank. What's going on? And homeowner said, I don't own the property anymore. And that's what happened. So, is a subject to risky? Hell yeah, it's risky. This can be very risky. But you can mitigate the risk by doing what you're supposed to do. Making sure that the homeowner is all on board with everything that's going on. We're going to have the closing is had with our title attorney, which is also our real estate lawyer. So all of this is done officially. Some investors believe in doing subject to at the kitchen table. I would never do. I mean, to me, you lose all credibility by doing your paperwork and closing a deal at the table. I want to have that mindset to that homeowner. I'm doing an official closing, like I did when I bought my house. And this is an official closing, not something that was signed at a dinner table and all the paperwork is there, and now it's always, I wonder, was that real? Was that legit? Was that legal?
Yeah.
You have that creeping in the mind of a homeowner when you do a closing like that at a dinner table. So I would prefer to always put it in the mindset or in the frame of at the title company or at my lawyer's office, where we got all those diplomas and Esquire this and stuff on the wall and all that good stuff. Now, the conversation, we never said subject to. Don't go into the deal, we're going to do subject to. We're going to do owner finance. We're going to do land installment contract. No. Mr. Jackson, we're going to make the payments in this type of deal. And the way we do it, we call it our guarantee payment program, or our payment to you program. That's how we break it down. I don't call in fact, I would never, when you make offers, multiple offers to homeowners, you don't say this is our finance offer, this is our cash offer. This is offer number 1, and offer number 2 is here. And offer number 2, we're going to give you X amount of dollars down, X amount of dollars per month for 5 years. I didn't say anything about owner financing. I didn't say anything about taking over your payments. I didn't say anything about that. This is what the offer is. Which offer do you like the best? And that's how you would do it. Don't complicate the message, because when people hear things that just don't resonate with their psyche or things that they think is complicated, they rather say no instead of I don't understand. And real estate agents are famous for that. They are, I'm just saying, they are famous for that.
Not all real estate agents.
Yeah. You're right. Not all real estate agents. None of the real estate agents in this environment.
And here's the thing, right? What happens is a lot of times people, they hear these words and then they want to sound smart, right? But if you're speaking to someone, you want to, it doesn't matter what you're saying if the message is not being received by the person that you're speaking to. So the whole idea is to make sure that you simplify what you're saying where everybody can understand and you guys can speak the same language.
Exactly. To give you an example of that, up until the time when I'm getting a property under contract, I never say contract. It's the paperwork. Let's take care of this paperwork. Once I get it under contract, I want the seller to know the severity of what they're doing. Then it's a contract. So keep that in mind. That's how you break down. Are you ready to do the paperwork? Sure, let's do it. Are you ready to do the contract? I don't know, I gotta let my lawyer see it. So keep that in mind. Now, it's a little small, subtle thing, but it goes a long way in the psyche of that person who you're dealing with. So keep that in mind when you're structuring deals and you're negotiating. It's never the paperwork, the contract, until it's signed. Now, another thing you'll find out is that, well, what happens if the person backs out of the contract? I've had situations like that, and I'm a firm believer And that if you're dealing with little old lady from Pasadena, or somebody from Annapolis, young old lady from Annapolis, or a couple that's up in age, if you jump in a courthouse with a lawyer and you that big bad investor and that homeowner is standing there as the lowly homeowner, there's a good chance that you're going to lose, in my opinion. And I would rather just, well, Charles, how do you get the person to continue to go through a deal if the person says they want to leave? I threaten to sue. If the person is a little old homeowner, I threaten to sue. I put a lien on the property by recording the actual contract. If I feel as though the deal is worthy of that. What that does is it ties up the title. However, it only ties up the title until the closing date. So if you go past the closing date, then that person can go to sell whoever they want to. So that's why your best thing is to threaten to sue, but make a conscious decision whether or not you're going to, when you're dealing with the little old homeowner or the homeowner. Now with an investor, I'll sue all day long. But you got to realize, depending on the deal, I sued an investor on a deal that we were looking at about an $8 million profit total at the end of that deal. And the thing about the investor who we sued, he was one of the largest landlords in Baltimore City, him and his partner. And we won the case, but it cost us over $80,000 to do the lawsuit. But we're looking at millions of dollars in profit. So that's why we went through with that deal. So you have to determine, is it worth going through that action based on the cost it may cost you and the actual outcome of the deal.
Well, also to that point, that's where your rapport in the beginning and throughout the deal comes in, because of the fact that if a person feels comfortable, you guys can always have that conversation and you can get ahead of that situation if it becomes a situation where they feel a little bit uncomfortable. And then also to the point dealing with the paperwork, that's when you can go back and say, hey, we're in this deal until 3 months. Our closing date is 3 months from now. Do you really want to go? Do you really want to wait that long? Or let's just move forward and get everything out the way. That's where that rapport comes in, having those conversations and making them feel comfortable.
The majority of the time, when you get it under contract, remember you got two situations. You got the highly motivated and you got the let's wait and see, I'm ready to sell person. The highly motivated person will close the deal, get it under contract, sell it to you right away. The let's wait and see person needs 2, 3, 4 months, and then in those 2, 3, 4 months they're ready to sell. In those two different scenarios, you would have built rapport with the let's wait and see guy, but the let's wait and see guy is more likely the guy to go out of a deal because some other investor came to them with another offer. That's the key. And that's probably the number one reason why most homeowners back out of deals. Because some of us are using the same list that everybody else is. And they get 5, 10, 15, 20 letters a month for that property. And even after you get it under contract, they still get paperwork for that property, calls for that property, text messages for that property, direct mail for that property. And now you have to determine, okay, well, I got to keep and protect my interests. If you build that rapport with that homeowner, what's going to happen, and this is a true story, what's going to happen when somebody come to that homeowner and say, I can give you this, that homeowner's going to come back to you and say, Charles, I just want to let you know, Joe Smo did this, but I like I said, we have paperwork, we have contract, we have paperwork together, we're not going anywhere, I just want to let you know. This is exactly what happened. One of the leaders of a very well-known investor association in this region went behind the back of a wholesaler who was buying a house. In other words, he didn't go behind the back until it came out. So he was like the normal investor, where he pulled the actual calls, he made calls, he contacted the seller, and the seller said, I got a property and I was going to sell. And I think what happened was he went to the property. The seller didn't tell him that he wanted to sell. He went to the property and started asking the seller about the deal. Now, the reason why, the investor put the deal on the internet with the address. And this person who was part of this association saw it and went to the property and said, you know, that home, I think that guy who got your deal on the contract, he's trying to wholesale it. He don't plan on closing on the deal. Yeah. Now, here's the thing that the investor didn't know. That person who put it under contract had built rapport with that seller. They built a relationship with that seller. And that seller called them up. Hey, you know, Joe investor number 2 just told me not to deal with you because you're doing this, you're doing that, and so on. Don't worry. I like you. We're going to do business. We're going to continue to do business. So, what happened at the end of that was Joe, the investor who put it under contract, went to the investor who told the seller this issue and said, don't you ever do that again. As a matter of fact, the investor who put it on contract put the investor out on blast in the meetup groups. Yep. Now,
I heard about that.
yeah. And like I said, and I don't want to tell you guys this, but the guy who that happened to, who did that, who went to the seller, he was actually in the building yesterday.
Oh wow.
He wasn't in our group, but he was actually in the building. That's all I'm gonna say. So the key here, guys, is that nobody will have money deep enough to buy every deal. I don't have money that deep enough. Nobody has money that deep enough to buy every deal. Get away from that scarcity mentality. That's the biggest reason why most investors fail, because what they want to do is only caught in their pocket and caught in their hip, and they don't want to share anything with anyone. As opposed to expanding your network, reaching within, pulling others in and pulling others up. That's the true way to success. It's not grabbing it all and not sharing. You don't want to be that kind of person. I don't think I would be here today had it not been from all the mentors around the country. Jack Miller, Peter Fortunato, Bill Fell here. There are so many mentors that I went with around the country. It took me about 10 years to find somebody here, other than my first mentor, who wanted to share with me. I had to go to Florida to talk to Jack Miller, Peter Fortunato, John Schwab. I had to talk to all these guys before I could find somebody to really go deep into what I wanted to learn, which was transaction engineering. Really how to structure deals. Like I told you yesterday, and I'm gonna tell you today, we're gonna go deep into that today. That's probably the most beneficial skill you can learn. You can learn wholesaling, rehabbing, and buying and holding from anybody. But if you really want to be in the business, structuring deals, transaction engineering, that's the way to go.